Wealthy Author Podcast, episode number 29, Reintroducing the Wealthy Author Podcast, because it's the same difference. Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Author Podcast. I am your host, Arlando Fortune, and this is a show about business and authors. With the growing demand for information, entrepreneurs must learn how to turn their ideas into words on a page that bring in cash and share a unique message. This podcast brings you the strategies, tips, and bars to do just that and do it well using a book. I have a special gift for you, my listeners. You've been listening to the podcast because you're thinking about writing a book. And one of the biggest challenges I hear is, Fortune, I want to write a book, but when I sit down to do it, my brain goes blank. I have all these ideas and poof, they're gone. Well, I've heard you, and I have a solution. Now, what if I told you that you could get rid of that anxiety, that you could plan out your entire book in less than an hour and do it in such a way that when you finally sit down to write the words will just flow out of you, just like they do when you're having a conversation. You could eliminate the nerves because you have a plan. Now, would that help? Your solution is the 4 Brains templates. This strategy uses both sides of the brain, the logical and the creative, to pull out your message and give you prompts that make writing as easy as answering questions. No more stressing out over the blinking cursor on the screen that seems to be mocking you, or typing out a bunch of garbage that you eventually delete. Grab your copy of the templates at thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains and get your message done right the first time. Now, by this time tomorrow, you'll be amazed at how easy it was to finally get started on becoming a real author. Don't wait any longer because you didn't know how to get started. With this templates, you'll finally feel confident that you'll be able to write your book. Remember, you're only one book away from your next business breakthrough. Go to thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains and get the goods now. So for this episode, y'all, I'm welcoming you here to another episode of what was formerly called the Thought Fortunes Podcast. And we're changing the name to the Wealthy Author Podcast. Well, because it just makes sense. Like we're talking about interviewing wealthy authors, and we are here talking about what it means to be a wealthy author, particularly as it pertains to being an entrepreneur and leveraging books to build and grow your business. So it only made sense that we have the Wealthy Author Roadmap as one of our products. We wanted to make something that was easier to find there on the podcast compilers, and that way we wouldn't have to do as much on the front side of marketing and trying to get more people to this podcast. And as we put the vote out to see, should we change the name? Would you like this name? Wealthy Author Podcast came to the top. So that's what we're riding with. Now, for this episode, since we are launching a new name, we are going to just go ahead and launch this new name with a new introductory, a trailer, if you will, for the podcast. So I'm going to go through some of these questions that I just want to make sure those who are new listeners, those who are coming to the show as we change the name and haven't been listening to this already, first foremost, go back and listen to the other episodes 1 through 28 or 0 through 28 actually, and then come back and start listening to this podcast. We're not changing a lot of the format. There will be more of me coming on and doing some solo episodes as opposed to all interviews, because I've been asked to answer some questions about becoming a self-published author and just want to give some perspective on different things that come to mind, or stories or case studies, just to keep you familiar with what's going on in this in this circle, in this industry, but also to give you some more inspiration outside of people who have written books and are coming on here. I want to make sure that you actually hear from not only my own authors, but to start also hearing from the people that I'm working with outside of here. I may not publish everyone, but I do help people to get published as part of the strategy, book marketing and things of that nature. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself right now. So let's go ahead and get right into these questions in basically the podcast trailer for the Wealthy Author Podcast. So I kind of thought, trying to figure out exactly how I should go over some of these questions to introduce the show. And part of me wants to just kind of ask the questions, then to answer them. But I'm not going to do that. This is going to be an episode that I go over, what we're doing with the show, why you should listen to the show, what this show is about, and what problem it's trying to solve. So you have a real good introduction to why it's important that we have this show and why I feel like it was important that I be the one that do that. So I'm going to go through some of these questions and do my best to just try to roll them all together without it sounding like an interview of myself. Although that doesn't sound like a bad idea, actually. I may do that in some episode in the future where I record myself asking questions and then I just record myself answering them. Who knows? It's just fun. It's the fun podcast. Either way, the reason why the most urgent challenge that I see for the people who are listening to this podcast and the people that I speak to is that you are looking for a way to leverage your ideas, and so that more people really understand what it is that you have to offer. A lot of the people that I speak with who want to write a book have this message that they feel like they need to get out, but they just weren't sure how to get it out. And they have these thoughts in their head of whether what they have to say, is anyone really going to listen? Because there are so many other books about the same subject. And the answer is yes. Of course, people are going to listen. If you do things in a certain way, you're going to have even more people listen. So you get to hear this. The podcast talks about several of those ideas on how to make sure more people, more eyeballs get onto your content, or more ears get to hear your audiobooks. So that's definitely a great way to do that. I just found a profound way of doing that on Kindle just recently as a side note already. But the thing here is that another idea here is that when people go to thinking about writing their book, or even if they finish the book or halfway through writing the content, the idea keeps popping up in head. And as an entrepreneur, almost every single one deals with this issue of imposter syndrome, feeling like, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Will people believe me? What if they catch me? What if they find out that I don't know everything? And that's a real fear for most of us who are putting ourselves out there into the world. By most of us, I mean like the majority of us. But that doesn't mean that you stop. It doesn't mean that you hold back from going and sharing your message. What it means is that you have to find ways of pushing through that and making sure your message gets heard, because I absolutely believe, and you're hearing it from the beginning of this podcast, is that God has put you here for a reason. Now, whether you understand what that reason is or not doesn't really matter as much as you just moving forward. Meaning that you have to, as we like to say here, God cannot steer a parked car, so you have to start moving forward and not allow God to guide you along the way. Now, I'm saying the word God, the big G word, but you can use that as your higher power. I've periodically called it glue. Stands for God, light, universe, whatever. GLUW, the glue that holds this world together. Whatever it is for you that makes, whatever your fancy is, call it higher power if you will. But you've been here and strategically placed to do some things for some other people. I absolutely believe that we're here to serve and to love on each other. And we all have a way of doing that. Some of that is just great mothers. Some of that is providing some great clothing, great great design. Some of us building homes. Some of us are creating ways of transportation. Some of us are helping each other to overcome illnesses or to build in relationships, or that might be for you to increase your health. Some of us are out here just understanding that in order for you to understand enterprise and capitalism and how to the idea of being an entrepreneur, that you have to go out there and share your message. Whatever that is, we're out here designed to help each other. We are a community. No matter how far apart we get or how different we think we are, we still are one big happy community if we so allow it. And the rest of the world, your community, the people who need to hear from you need to hear from you. And you're the only one who will be able to present your message to that person in the way that they need to hear it. And the challenge then is anyone going to listen? And that's a difficult challenge. But the thing is, we got to do it anyway, and then get better at marketing your book, marketing your concept. See, the problem here is that if we do not go out and share our message, somebody's going to die having not heard your message. Maybe you haven't met them. Maybe you'll never meet them. But the thing is, someone's going to die not having heard your message. The thing that could have saved their life or saved their child's life or saved their parents' life or saved their friend's life, and you're going to hold it to yourself. I call you selfish, honestly. And I know I'm saying that from a place of humility, because I have been selfish. I was selfish for so many years. Honestly, selfish for so many years. And many of you have listened to some of the episodes by now. You know I'm a recovering addict. My whole life was centered around being selfish. It was centered around me. Everything was about me. I was selfish. And despite all that, I was still trying to go out and do as much as I could for other people. I was an honest addict for the longest. I wasn't going to steal your dope. I wasn't going to take your money. I was going to do everything the right way until I wasn't. But that's a whole nother story, right? So the thing here again is the part of the problem here, the consequences of not putting your book out there is that your message doesn't get heard. Your voice becomes muted. You do not get recognized for the expertise and the skills that you have and put so much years into crafting and building and developing. There's your business does not grow the way into the heights that it could because you're not known, because people out there have put books out there to establish themselves as authority, and they have not the skills that you have, yet they took action and shared what they had. And because of that, they're known, you're not known. So therefore, in most people's minds, that other person is better than you. Why haven't you written your book? Who are you? See, this is the problem that we're trying to solve. One of the problems we're trying to solve. Not only that, but also to book more stages for higher fees for those of you who are speakers listening to this. Yes, when you become writing a book, there's certain stages that you're not going to get on unless you are an author. There's certain stages you're not even going to get a look at unless you are an author. And there's certain stages you're going to get just because you are an author. I mean, you're going to get more pay. You can demand more pay. I mean, I wrote the book on this stuff. It feels awesome. Not only that, but there's this nagging thing in some of you who are hearing my voice right now. You know that there's something deep in you that's telling you that you must do this. And it's been years that you've been writhing and dealing with the anxiety that comes along with both sides of this. One side says, I need to write this book. The other side says, but I can't write this book. And there's anxiety on both sides. And that's a crazy place to be in. And I'm telling you, with all the authors you're going to hear on here and the content I'm going to bring to you on helping you develop not only your mindset, but developing your mental powers and developing some of that productivity, that high performance strategy, which is part of my background. I'm going to give you those tips and tools to overcome your own weaknesses and get out there and do it. Yes, you will. And the thing is, you're working so much harder at developing the business that you want to develop because you have not established yourself as an authority. You have not branded yourself in your industry the way it could be branded. You're not making the cash that you want to make in your business because people aren't qualified. They're not as qualified as you would like as you would like them to be before they even come to you. You got people that you've been telling the same thing over and over and over to every person that walks into your business or walks into your life. You've been telling the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over to, and you're getting tired of doing it, and people are not absorbing all of it anyway. But if you had this book, it'd make your life much harder. Instead of you saying, here, let me have a 30-minute conversation, you say, here, give me $15, grab this book. We'll have a follow-up conversation for the things that you don't understand. Or grab this book, it's $10. And once you read through the book, you understand what we are all about, and I'll provide you the product that you need. Or here, take this book. And this is the first entryway to understanding how my consultation works, services work, my coaching works. And once you've read through this, you really know and understand what you're getting into when you start working with me. That's a conversation. You're working too hard because a book is going to answer all the questions that you needed to answer for the person who has those questions. Not only that, it doesn't get tired. It says the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Right? There's less work on you. See, the thing, y'all, if we look at this in the future here, as you have become this author, just picture that. Picture yourself a year from now, 12 months from now. You are an author, using the right skills, right strategy. You are a best-selling author. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to be number one, but you are a best-selling author. No one can ever take that away from you. Every time you get announced, someone sees you are best-selling author. Today's speaker, best-selling author. You introduce yourself. My name is, I'm a best-selling author. You put it on your landing page. You put it on your website. You put it on your social media. Best-selling author. Picture that. No one can ever take that from you. Picture yourself being on that stage that you've been trying to get on for the last several years. But because you wrote the book and you emailed a copy of that book to the event planner, and then you followed up by writing a letter and tucking it inside of a physical copy of your book, and you mailed it off to that event planner as a follow-up. And they were so touched by the idea that you wrote in that letter that they decided, I'm going to just reach out and say thank you and open the lines of communication. And because you've done that, now you were invited to come and speak at the main event this year. How does that feel? And because you were speaking on these big stages, you landed other speaking engagements. And because you shopped the book around even more, now you're on more podcasts, and people are constantly asking you questions about that thing that you know so well. Nobody talks about it the way you talk about it. No one's been through the things that you've been through. Your unique stories, your special taste that you put on everything that you do, because it's you. Now your name becomes more familiar. People get recognizing you for your book. They recognize you because of your name. They know who you are. They know what you do, and you start getting shared. And you hear you're in a passing conversation, and you're passing by someone at the airport, and they recognize your face. Hey, you're the author of. Yes, that's me. Picture yourself sitting down at an appointment through a virtual appointment over Zoom, and you start that conversation with your prospect, and they start telling you about the ideas from your book. They're trying to teach you your stuff, and you're like, yes, you get it. How can I help you? And at that point, they've already prepared themselves to pay for your stuff full price. They just need to know which product you're telling them to buy. They need your consultation to guide them into buying the right product for them. There's no need to go ahead and to go through all the extra questions and teaching them about what your business is. They already know. They're come pre-qualified. They're hand packaged for you because you are the author. And they came to you because of your book. Imagine how much you can pass down to your family, to your generations after you, because of the principles that you left in your book on how you became successful. It can never be taken away from you. You leave a legacy. Not only a legacy of the ideas and concepts, but now that book can continue to be sold from the next generation to the next generation. It's available. It's a beautiful place to be. I want you to think about that. What would it be like if you were an author? How would your life change? How would your life change? So the thing here that you're thinking about that is imagining going through a simple process that walks you through not only the ideas of how you're going to make your book, but it's going to teach you how to put your book together in a way from the beginning so that your book is written to profit you. And we love the idea of profit. We talk about securing the bag. Understanding the word profit is, the definition of profit is to have a benefit, an advantage, or a gain. That is bag, B-A-G. So when you secure the bag from the beginning, you think profit first. Now you're going to write the right book that helps you get to the goals that you want to get to. But not only that, you have someone that's walking you through understanding who your ideal reader is so that you write the right book for the person that you need to have coming into your life, the person that you need to are here uniquely to serve. And you provide them the solution in the way that you serve them. Now they get educated on that. But not only that, but you write your book in such a way that it just feels like a conversation. It's just a persuasive conversation. They're getting to know, like, and trust you, understand what you're doing, understand the principles, and they get to know what it would be like to work with you because you're teaching them through your own stories. But then the reason why they even picked up that book is because someone helped guide you to understanding how to write an effective title. So they saw it and was like, oh, I got to open this book. I got to have this. What is it about? They flipped through the table of contents and saw that the things in there were just hit trigger point after trigger point after trigger point. I got to see what this content's about. And as they flipped through the introduction, they read a little bit of your unique story, and something about it says, if he can do it, I know I can do it. If she came through all that and succeeded, I bet she can show me too. There's something to learn. And on the back end of that, you have this team of people who are working with you to help and spread the word about your book because you've recruited them to be a part of your launch team. And as you launched your book out, you got some reviews and you started making adjustments to what your book is supposed to sound like so that when it finally gets released, not only is the book hitting its sales and people are going to buy it and saying, oh my God, this is awesome. This is exactly what I needed. But because you listened to their feedback when you were writing and developing the book, you made the right offer to them to grab the right download or go grab the next step in the process. And they're like, oh my God, how did you know that I needed that? Because you had a plan. You had a strategy for getting there. And at the end of that, you turned it into multiple streams of income. Yes, it's quite possible to turn that one outline into multiple streams of income if you have the right strategy. Ooh-wee, I'm telling you, it can be done. Let me pause here for a second and give you a word from our sponsors. I know we're about halfway through the show, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me in the back end of this short break. Today's show is sponsored by Fortune Press. You probably know that if you're not an authority in your industry, nobody's hearing your message. And you may know that the number one way to build your authority is by authoring a book. What you probably don't know is that you can write the manuscript for your book in less than 4 hours. I'm Arlando Fortune, the lead self-publishing strategist for Fortune Press, where we turn your ideas into a branded book that brings in the cash by sharing your unique message and positioning you as an authority in your industry. If you're an entrepreneur or a speaker who's thinking about already writing or want to publish your next book, but you don't want to write it, or you just want to get help getting it done, your first step is a wealthy author roadmap. This is a call to help us get to the heart of what you do for your customers. Together, we'll determine how a book will help you establish more credibility in your customers' minds and make a bigger impact in their lives, while also, of course, increasing your revenues. During the call, we'll walk you through designing your book's outline and its content and create a publishing timeline that fits your goals, even if that means getting it done in as little as 90 days. What makes us different is that we know a book is only the first step into your world. Not only do we help you write the book, but we work with you on creating a signature suite of products, all from your book's one outline. We do all of this using the 5 phases of our proprietary system, the Signature Book Formula. To get started on your personalized wealthy author roadmap, go to thoughtfortunepress.com and click the gold Start Here button at the top of the page. Now remember, you're only one book away. So let us at Thought Fortune Press guide you to becoming an author. Go to thoughtfortunepress.com today. All right, so now, y'all, let's get back to this introduction, the trailer to this podcast, and tell you a little more about what it is about. And we're going to talk a little bit more about me and what the actual show is going to be about. Now that you understand the concept and of the show and the problem we're trying to solve, and hopefully you understand and can visualize the solution that we are offering here on the show. But let's talk a little bit more about the actual show itself, and so you understand what to expect. Okay. So again, my name is Arlando Fortune. I am a daddy. I have 2 lovely kids, a young man who he is, man, I'm so proud of my son. He's in college as of this initial podcast episode. My daughter's in kindergarten. And, yes, that's a big gap, but it is what it is. So I'm a proud father and a loving daddy to both of them. Not only that, y'all, I am a self-publishing strategist, which means not only do I help you design and create your book, but also help you launch that book in the right way so that you are writing the right book for the right person at the right time. Okay. I'm also a I'm also a high performance strategist. And as a high performance strategy, that's dealing with different aspects of productivity, of personal power, of thinking about personal development, understanding purpose, people skills. All those things are in my background. And part of the reason why I started focusing on self-publishing is because I was always asking people that I was working with, that if there are a lot of coaches I was dealing with, a lot of experts, and I was asking them all the time, where's your book? Like, do you have a book? Like, can I buy your book? And it was so often people were like, no, but I've been thinking about it. And of course, my ass is like, what's stopping you from writing? It's like, I don't know how. I don't know how to get it published. I always have this problem with writing. And I'm like, no, look here, let me tell you what to do. And so this podcast is another reflection of those conversations of like, let me give some examples. Because I know for me, when I listen to podcasts, I get these little inspirations about what my next step is. And as I listen to other successful entrepreneurs, I'm like, oh my God, you went through all that just to build that so-and-so company. Cool. That means my stuff is just normal. Keep grinding it out, right? Keep out here making these moves. But the other thing about this, y'all, is I am a recovering avid addict. So you're going to hear a lot of spirituality in this stuff, but you're going to hear a lot of science because as of this recording, again, I have my master's in psychology. And I'm working on my doctoral program in psychology. So I love the scientific side, but I'm also very spiritual. So you're going to hear both sides as we go through episodes and have conversations with people. I'll throw in some studies or research and ask a real in-depth question on a scientific or mechanical, logical side. And then I'll flip onto the other side and be like, oh my God, how did you feel that way? How did that make you feel? Like I'll go to the old emotional, spiritual side also, not in that voice. I don't know where that voice just came from, but either way, Uh, that is who I am at its core, as a very spiritual person. But I love getting into the science of things too. I believe that both sides are important. I believe that science is the proof of life through facts, and I believe that spirituality is the proof of life through faith. And we need, so in both of those, we realize that in order for me to have facts, I have to have faith that those facts will happen, continue to happen. And my faith is built upon the facts around me that I don't understand. So we need both sides. The same thing goes for science and spirituality. We're explaining the same thing from different perspectives. It just depends on what you look at it. And I like to be holistic. I like to look at all the different angles, as many angles as I can. Now, in the past, that got me in trouble because I like to overanalyze things. Now, I've learned to have this bias towards action. I'd rather get the thing done and continue to try to improve it. Iterate, I guess, is the word that we look here. And the same thing goes for these books, y'all. You know, I quoted Dan Kennedy earlier today, and I was doing a presentation, and the quote has something to do with perfectionism is the enemy of profits. Perfectionism is the enemy of profit, meaning, man, you're trying to make the perfect book, and because he was talking about books, and you're trying to make the perfect book, and you ain't gonna make no money because you're trying to sit there worrying about tidbits and nitpicking about stuff that doesn't even matter. Get the ideas out, get the content out, and start making profits, right? Something else about me, y'all. I was a collegiate athlete. I went to college on a full scholarship. I was offered a chance to go play pro ball. After that, I chose to go, and it was pro ball in Canada, just to be specific. But either way, pro baseball in Canada. I decided to work for the government, and working for the government was cool. Because I had a degree in accounting. And from there, I started learning about these wealth principles, and I started learning about being a pickup artist. That actually was my beginning of my journey into personal development, was learning up how to be a better man. Not the other type of pickup artist where you're just lying and manipulating, but really learning how to be stronger about who I am and expressing myself better and more clearly, be more confident with my own self and my own skin, right? And that took me on a wild journey. And most journeys happens when you really go out on this quest to change who you are. You're going to meet a lot of opposition, and the big opposition for me is I started making money. I hadn't really understood what I was supposed to really do with the money, so I started spending it a lot and spending it on more and more parties, and that's when my life went to spinning out of control. There was a point where I was getting in and out of jails. I was facing some other things that happened up in my life, and somewhere along the line, I got run over by a truck. My spine got severed in half, and that didn't stop me from going back out to partying. Then I went and had, man, just multiple situations where I was so close to going to prison, where until finally I was facing prison and decided maybe I should stop now. And around that time, my daughter was born, and everything had to change from there. So from the time that I was actually released from jail, the very last time, I finally got clean in my life. So I have several years clean now as of this point. As of 2015, not touched a drug or alcohol. And not only that, but in that short time frame when I got out, I actually turned around and started my school to get my master's program and a doctoral program after that. So there's a lot of things that happened. I became an author, best-selling author, written 3 books as of this recording, with a couple more coming out this year. It's different. It's different when you make that shift. But I want to make sure you understand, lay the groundwork for who I am, so you understand why I act the way I do and why I say some of the things that I'm going to say. Okay, I'm going to say some stuff. You're like, what did that come from? Unless you know my background, you're not going to understand. And again, y'all, the podcast is to help the people who I've spoken to understand what it's like to be an author, and not just be an author, but to become a wealthy author. Because we're here talking about books that'll help build your business, right? So to write these money-making branded books. books. That's what we're here talking about. And so I'm interviewing authors on how they did that. How did they write the book? Why did they write the book? How is it helping their business? What does their business look like afterwards? What are some marketing tips that they're going to give that they did or use to promote their book? I'm going to ask questions about not only that, but also about their business. Okay, so what is it, your unique thing that you bring to the world, and how are you serving and helping people? And why did you start that business? I'm really trying to have a conversation with my guests and understand not only their business, but about this idea of using books to build their business. Now, as you go through and listen to these episodes, I want you to really take something from each episode. I'm trying to help you evolve your mind in some way. Not every person's business you listen to is going to be something that you really relate to the business itself, but the ideas that they're talking about and how they've improved people's lives and why they do it. That's a theme to remember. Like, why are you doing your thing that you do? How they're leveraging their books, because a lot of people you're going to hear are using their books in similar ways but getting different results, or they're doing it differently to get a same result. Okay, so you're going to hear a lot of different perspectives on how to leverage the book. Listen to the tips that they give on how to promote and start putting those into your database so that you can start leveraging them. Because marketing your book is a long-term thing. It's not something you do when the first book comes out and you're done. You continue to market your book. So you want to take these different strategies and continue to leverage them. Get some inspiration from the guests that I interview on here, because their stories are going to be, I'm going to try my best to get into some of the background, and I'm going to dive into some things that come up that may deal with some emotional aspects. I'm going to ask about challenges and how they overcame the challenges. And I'm going to try to do my best to provide as much gold bars as possible in order for you to really get what the content's about. Now, speaking about bars, around episode 2, I got this thing where I said bars and I started screaming it out, right? And because it's my show and I just want to have something fun. But part of the reason why I say bars is because I want to create this pattern interruption for what you're doing. Because I know many of you are listening to this as you're driving down the street, as you're exercising, as you're doing some type of cleaning or chores or something like that. It's not something you're completely focused, all your attention center staring at your phone like they used to do back in the day when they're listening to the radio, right? You're not doing that. You're doing other things. So when I hear me say bars, that means it's something that was said that if you didn't catch it, you really want to pay attention, because we're going to go back over it just a little bit to really dive into that idea. So listen for the bars. And I tell my the guests that you want to hear me say bars as many times as possible. Now, I've said it enough times right now, so I'm going to move forward with that, okay? So look forward to more guests on the show, and I'll definitely look forward to some of those more solo episodes as we move forward from here, y'all. This show is about stories, so please, I know some episodes or some people's shows are about really just tactics, and getting in and getting it out. No, this is about the stories. I believe that you listen to the stories, you find yourself in those stories and see how you can get results because you've put yourself in that story and seen how you can get those results for yourself. So that's why I ask the guests to go into the stories, and I try to pull them out of them even more. So y'all, from here, I definitely want to wrap this episode up as an introduction. I don't know how long this should have been, but whatever. We are into this. We did it. I've had fun. I feel like I've been very clear about what the show is about. But if you have any questions, you definitely can send the questions into fortune@thoughtfortunepress.com. If there's somebody that you want to recommend for the show, again, send that into fortune@thoughtfortunepress.com. And definitely see if I can get them on the show. You can make an introduction. You can find me all over social media at D Arlando Fortune. Now, my name is the letter D, Arlando, and Arlando is spelled like Orlando, as in Orlando, Florida, but with an A. So DARLANDO, F as in Frank, ORTUNE. D Arlando Fortune. Find me on all the almost every social channel. That's what you're gonna find me at. If I have an account, that's what you'll find it as. Okay, hit me on the DMs in there, private messengers, whatever it is. Ask questions about the show. Give some shout outs for the show. Recommend the show. This is fun for me, and I hope you really enjoy the people that I bring on here. Cause y'all, life is good, and I want to share how good life can be as you become a wealthy author in all areas of your life, y'all. Oh, I forgot one thing. One of the questions I ask the authors is, how has the writing process changed them? And you're going to hear some interesting ideas there. Some of them talk about, becoming better writers, but you're also going to hear often some life principle that they brought out of, some clarity they've got because they sat down to write their book and they had a breakthrough. Remember, you're only one book away. One book away, y'all. This is the Wealthy Author Podcast. It's your boy, D. Arlando Fortune. I look forward to talking to you soon. Please send me your shout outs and I'll get back with you. Okay? God bless, y'all. Sign out for the outro. You've just listened to episode number 29 of the Wealthy Author Podcast with your host, D. Arlando Fortune. That's your boy. And I want to give thanks to our sound and audio guy, Kyle Binge. And of course, to our creator. Now, do you have any questions or comments? Go ahead and email them to fortune@thoughtfortunepress.com. And if you want to turn your ideas into a branded book that books more speaking engagements, generates more leads, and then head over to thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains and grab a copy of the 4 Brains template and map out your book. Yeah, it's so easy. You'll wonder why everyone hasn't written a book. That's at thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains. And if you like the show, do us a favor. Share, like, and join. Take a screenshot and share the episode with the hashtag Wealthy Author Podcast. And then show us how much you like us by giving us 5 stars and a review on iTunes. And finally, join us every week by subscribing to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. That's it for today. God bless. As always, you're only one book away. Talk to you next time.